Good evening, friends. Today it's our second lecture of essay for UPSC. This is our second lecture. Now, in the first lecture, we dealt with certain techniques which is important for you to score well in essay. And as I have told you that if you have command over essay, ethics and your optional, which is quite possible, psychology or any other optional, then you are having a command over 500 for optional, 250 for ethics paper and 250 for essay paper. These 1000 marks decide your future after clearing prelims. Now, as we understand that clearing prelims also becomes a big hurdle given the fact that the kind of GS paper which is there and the CSAT, which has become a huge hurdle, a big hurdle for most of the people. Now, we from our side are analyzing the trends firstly, looking at the paper and bringing a test series which will not only be a test series but a mentorship test of general studies prelims along with the mentorship, where we will ensure that this test series itself becomes a class. Like if you have subscribed to full class of any coaching institute, the test series will give you a feel of the complete class. How? The study material required for the test for every section will be provided. One is your material. Then you take the test after revising the material. After the test, there will be two things. One, the solution will be provided to you in form of PDF. Each and every question, the answer key along with the explanation. Key plus explanation. After that, there will be a video explanation. After this, there will be a video explanation. Video explanation taken by the faculty of GS or CSAT himself or herself. After this video explanation, which will be live and which will be made available in form of recorded video to you, then even then if you have doubts, each and every candidate's personal doubts one-to-one will be solved through Zoom. Through Zoom, each and every candidate will be given enough time so that each and every doubt can be solved. This program will start on 4th of November, 5th of November actually. 5th November, and it will run till 5th of May 2024. There are two sets of programs. One is regarding the prelims alone, where GS paper 1 tests will be held and CSAT tests will also be held. One package, total 24 tests. Another set where mains preparation of GS and prelims preparation of GS both will be done in two phases, before prelims, after prelims. These are the two programs where the same pattern will be followed. In a much lesser amount, you will have a feel of the complete class, one thing. Secondly, personal mentorship will be available. Expert driven classes will be there, expert driven material which will be provided to you, expert driven question framing, so that new questions, as UPSC is trying new questions, so you should also practice on new questions, not being content with the traditional questions which many of the coachings are giving you. We are also not giving you 100 tests, 200 tests, because it is not at all possible to write 100 tests. So we are giving 24 tests in one set. Another set, 2 phases. Before prelims, there is mains preparation of GS main, 4 papers, 1, 2, 3, 4. There will be test for each and every paper, section wise and full test. Once you complete it by end of February, those people who think that they have command over their optional, now they can go ahead with the mains preparation, or along with the optional also they can do. Till February end, they will be writing mains test in phase 1. After that, March, April, from March till mid-May, they will write prelims focus test, where it will be GS paper 1 and CSAT both will be provided. After you cover your prelims, there will be full test of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 along with the essay. The essay test will also be there in the first phase, so that it gives you a holistic preparation. There is no need to run here and there, as has been our idea, especially my idea, and many students told me, sir, your approach is different from the approach which is being followed by others, but you should not focus on others' weakness, but it is very necessary that you bring out the truth to the students, because students are getting waylaid because of the fraudulent activities of some of the coaching institutes. So it is our duty, it is the duty of teacher to bring out all these facts. Okay, so there are, see, if you are honest and if you wear your emotions on your sleeves, if you speak the truth because you don't fear anyone, there are certain controversies which always happen. So there is no need to fear about the controversies. But in favor of students, as when I was taking classes earlier in psychology, when I had interacted with most of you, there also you have seen that I have been upfront, I have been telling that you don't need to follow the approach followed by others. Faculties follow this approach only for their own convenience, because they have done the complete command rectification over a material and they keep on giving to you. But there is an approach which has changed since 2013, especially if we talk about psychology. Things have changed now. Now we need to approach it in a different manner. Likewise, the ethics and essay also requires a different approach, because the paper is dynamic. So look out for these programs and choose according to your suitability. As far as helping you is concerned, many of you also know that I go beyond my abilities also to help students as far as I can do. So with this, we first will start with our summary of the lecture which we have taken earlier. The lecture was of 2.5 hours, but this lecture will keep for 1.5 hours. Today also 1.5 hours, and again tomorrow 1.5 hours of essay class. It will break the session into 2 parts. It will be easier for you. You will also enjoy the preparation rather than being completely jittery, frustrated. No need to get frustrated. Read things in spaced learning, break things into parts and enjoy the learning. You will always be successful. Okay, so first and foremost, the summary, what we did in the lecture 1. In lecture 1, what we did can be summarized only in this FACE technique, FACE. We did learn FACE technique. What is the FACE technique? Which you have to remember. In the FACE techniques, the F is your choosing the familiar topic. Okay, choosing the familiar topic. And I told you, when we look at the familiarity, you are familiar with the topic, you have to look at 2 things. One, it should be closer to your optional. as compared to your general studies, because in general studies we read only generic points, we have a shallow understanding of the topics, but if it is closer to your optional, you will have an in-depth analysis of it, and that is requirement of the UPSC essay also, which we will see further. Apart from this, second factor which defines your familiarity is your conviction. Whether you feel conviction for the topic or not, as simple as that. Suppose we take the topic as we did in the last session also, visionary decision making. Visionary decision making takes place at the intersection of logic and intuition. Now this topic is quite familiar if we talk about your psychology optional. If you have psychology optional, you can choose this. If you have sociology optional, we could have chosen a topic about the difference between a girl and boy, how girls are raised and how boys are raised. There was one topic. This is the topic. When you have enough material about the intuition, or you have a better understanding of intuition, what does it mean and what does logic mean, and how visionary decision making can be defined, you can break this into different parts because of your understanding. Now comes the conviction. What do you feel? Do you have the conviction that yes, the visionary decision making, the decision taken for years, the decision which is taken for next 100 years, the decision which will define the next 200 years or the whole generation, does it take place at the intersection of logic and intuition? Yes or no? You may be having a conviction in favor of it or against it. Favor or against, both are correct, both are fine. If you have a conviction in favor of it or against it, both are absolutely correct, both are correct, but you must have a conviction that yes, the topic is making sense to me. Okay, so you will be able to write your points in a more convincing manner, and because of that conviction you will generate more marks. So this was out of this phase technique, the familiarity. F for familiarity. And remember, if you go by these techniques, it will be easier for you. The journey will be easier for you. Okay, then comes A. What is A? As I told you, anecdotal introduction. Anecdotal introduction. A is this. What does anecdote means? Anecdote is a story. You should have the ability to build a story. See, other sorts of introduction are also correct. Defining something, straight away summarizing the whole topic in the introduction itself, and then finally giving the conclusion, so that you summarize the topic in the intro. Summarize. Finally, in the conclusion also you summarize. So it gives a feeling of closure. That is also correct. Nothing is wrong in it. In these kind of introduction, summarize everything in introduction, or you define things in intro. Definition. Nothing is wrong. Everyone has a style of writing and that should be followed, generally speaking. But if we talk about UPSC or any essay in that manner, if we do this anecdotes, what is anecdote? In this case, what can be the anecdote? The topic which we followed earlier, that visionary decision making takes place at the intersection of logic and intuition. in this topic, what can be the anecdote? There can be many anecdotes, but what comes to my mind, on top of my mind right now, when you introduce, you may straight away say that Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, who was taking rest below a tree, below an apple tree rather, apple tree. Sir Isaac Newton, taking rest below an apple tree, saw the apple falling down the tree. Now this common phenomenon, common phenomenon of the apple falling down the tree will incite two emotions or two reactions. One is your logic, that yes, there is a force because of which the apple fell. Apple fell because of a force which is pulling it down, but it required an immensely creative and intuitive appeal coming from as great a mind as Sir Isaac Newton is, to visualize that there has to be a universal force, intuition, that there has to be a universal force, which defines the existence of the world itself. The pull and push factors, pull and push forces between two or more objects are defined by some force which resulted in the fall of the apple below the tree, and that force later on was called gravitational force. That required an intuition. To think like this. An intuitive person can think like this. Yes, there has to be a universal force which defines the existence of the dynamics or balance of the universe, where each and every object are either being pulled or pushed towards or away from each other, and thereby the whole universe exists, the galaxy exists. See that vision? Or in case of Stephen Hawking, Sir Stephen Hawking, who thought that there would have been a Big Bang which resulted into the existence of the universe itself. To think like this, you need intuition. What was the decision making there done by Newton? That I will follow this small event with conviction that there is something big behind it, and that decision became a visionary decision that defined the existence of the whole universe itself. So these kind of anecdotes you can write. You can also write, on the other hand, we have seen that many of the visionary decisions have been taken by great stalwarts based on pure logic or only intuition. That's also true. Then you will give the examples of it. When the decision was taken based on pure logic, pure calculative approach, and the decision became visionary. This way also you can start. So if you start in an anecdotal manner by touching the core, the heart of the topic, then examiner is more convinced. Examiner understands that you not only have an ability to understand the topic, but you are expressing it in such a manner that it has an example, it has an existence, and your communication is much more persuasive than a person who is merely defining the topic. That is why I say, F, familiarity of the topic. Always choose a familiar topic, but don't write jargons and all. Don't write your jargons. If you write jargons, it will become very difficult. Keep the topic simple, keep your writings, expressions simple. And as I told you how to build that simple and expressive vocabulary, pick and choose simple sentences from your newspaper reading, from your other sorts of reading, wherever you find that this sentence is really powerful. Then you have to pick and choose. Keep a diary, maintain a diary of vocabulary, which is going to be very, very helpful when you are writing essay. And believe me, this much of hard work required here is very, very less as compared to the hard work which is required to score very high in GS paper 1, 2 and 3 of the mains. Scoring in essay is easier. Scoring in ethics also is easier because it is your own ground. You can play well. The only thing is the techniques required, the right kind of guidance. Because see, UPSC exam is not only about hard work. There are some students who are blessed with the right guidance because of some of the members of their family, like Ria Dabi. Because of the help she got from Tina Dabi, Ria Dabi was able to clear the exam very easily. And there are other factors also. So these kind of coaching is available in the home itself. So right kind of guidance. And you see, then again I bring this topic that the coachings which are being run, they are not doing their duty honestly. That is why, leaving so many other things which I could have done, I thought that no, there is a need to change things here. So if you get the right direction, in your optional essay in ethics, you can easily ace the exam. We are trying to bring the right guidance for prelims also. Two things we have seen. FA, what is C? FA done. What is C? F was your familiarity of topic, familiar topic. A was anecdotal, introduction, and it will come through practice. It can be developed, of course. C is your creative writing. When I say creative, I don't mean that you should have a flowery language of the Shakespeare. That is not required, that is not desirable, nobody likes that. Especially in the exams like UPSC, where the examiner likes simple language. Let me tell you very, very clearly. But what does creative mean here? Creative here means use of case study, use of flow charts, even in essay, use of diagrams, even in essay, use of maps also. If you have to show the incidence of terrorism or Naxalism, you can use a map. Don't draw the complete map. There is no need of perfection. As far as civil services is concerned, nobody requires you to be perfect. You can draw a simple diagram of India, and even this much is enough. Nobody is going to ask you, because this is not a geography exam, right? With lesser space I could draw only, you can draw better. There you can show the incidence of terrorism in this area, Naxalism in some parts here, some parts here, some parts here, insurgency this part, northeast. These kind of arrangements can be done if you have to show these things, right? So we'll see an example. Suppose there is a topic that integrity is the hallmark of success, or integrity is the most important ingredient of success. If this is the topic, integrity is the most important ingredient of success. Now, as I gave you example the other day in ethics paper about Tata, whether it is JRD or Ratan, it doesn't matter. But you see the integrity of the person, that the compassion shown for a human being is the same as the compassion shown for his pet dog, or integrity shown by M. Vishwesvaraya. Who did not use the official lamp given by the government, was not used beyond the official hours. So much of integrity. You can cite these case studies. These are called case studies, examples. In case of Naxalism, terrorism, I only told you how you can show a map, or you can even make a diagram or a flow chart. As we have seen in case of ethics, how our ethics are built. What are the determinants? Family, culture, law, media, religion also, and personal life experience. So many other things. Just to show an example, these can also be done in the essay. If you do these things, then your essay becomes unique and you get more marks. As simple as that. So utilize your brain as much as you can. So this was your FAC, creative, using flow charts, diagrams, case studies. What is E here? E is your support your arguments with compelling examples. Whatever argument you give, you may give several arguments. You may give several arguments, but support your arguments with examples. Like, this is your visionary decision making. You can say only intuition, only logic, or you can say both of them are important. Whatever you say, you should have an example for this. You can say Captain Vikram Batra in Kargil. When you are saying visionary decision making, VDM takes place only because of intuition. Kargil war going on. Kargil war is going on. In that, Vikram Batra, the hero of the Kargil war, he took a decision to take on the enemy platoon even when he was not being backed by a equal or larger force. Even then he was being heroic. What was the decision based on? Intuition, courage, no fear, patriotism, no logic there. But this decision became visionary, because of which we ensure that we take back that important post from the garb of the enemy, so that the enemy does not take control of the war, and because of which we won the war. One of the most important factors. Visionary decision making, yes, but based on what? Intuition, not logic. Whatever you say must be backed with by the examples. FACE you have to remember. Familiarity of the topic, and then A is your anecdotal start. C is the creative writing, which includes case studies, especially flowcharts, diagrams, maps, case studies. E is your examples. F is your familiar topic. A is your anecdotes. C is your creative writing. E is your examples. This is how it does take place. And remember, few techniques, more practice will make you a winner. So this you have to remember. After that, we'll start today's topic. Today's topic, lecture 2, is philosophical essay. There are several types of essays, but how to deal with the philosophical essays? That is the elephant in the room we have to address, because most of the time, see what happened earlier. I'll tell you what happens, how UPSC thinks, and why last year when in prelims the GS paper came, most of the serious candidates, sincerely prepared candidates, could not clear the exam. What happened? What was wrong there? These candidates were actually prepared for the trend which was being followed by UPSC, but UPSC changed it suddenly, both in CSAT and your GS. Now the thing is how to undo that, how to follow that undo approach. See, in that undo approach, if you have command over techniques, then whatever UPSC asks, why should you bother? When you know, and that requires somebody who can tell you the technique. Philosophical essay. Philosophical essay is being asked because most of the students were prepared. How they were preparing essay? I'll tell you. Political essay, they prepared 10 essay. Geographical essay, prepared 10 essay. Economy, they prepared 10 essay. Likewise, society, prepared 10 essays. Did the rectification, made a structure and went there. What happened when you are asked philosophical essays? You don't have any structure. Like in the last paper itself, there was a topic. The name of the topic was not all who wander are lost. Not all who wander are lost. Right. Now you see, in this topic, where will you apply geography? Where will you apply polity, economy, history? That you have to think. You have to blow the topic, explore the topic completely, give arguments, give examples, make your arguments compelling. This is based on a technique. This is based on practice, which we will do definitely, so that we are ahead of many others. Because see, if you are following the crowd, what happens? Why when some teachers having only 10 or 20 or 50 students with them, and they, out of the 50, all 20 cleared the exam. Why it happens? Because they are not following the crowd. They are following something unique. And if the coach is good, if you are going in the right direction, you will definitely ace the exam. You see this, not all who wander are lost. In this, you cannot prepare anything in advance, but we will follow a technique, especially prepared for you people only. What we will follow for philosophical approach is called this approach, D, E, A, N, Dean approach. You know, there is a dean of students in your colleges, dean of students. So this is the dean approach. In this dean approach, what we'll see? What does D mean? D here means description. We'll go one by one. What does D mean here? D is description. For philosophical essays, follow this approach. Dean approach. This approach is suitable for all the essays, but especially for philosophical essay, this approach is good. It is not that when we have another sorts of essays, we'll follow some other technique. The technique will be same, but for philosophical essays, it's very apt. We'll see how. First is your description. What does it mean? Our topic was not all who wander are lost. This is our topic. Description says, the first step says, or the first method says, describe this topic completely. Describe completely. And what does that mean now? Describing it completely. Describing anything completely means this. What is wandering? Wandering can be in form of the wandering done by Lord Buddha, left his home, went out in the forest to seek the truth. What is the truth of life? After being driven by his conviction, his force, that life is full of sorrows. What is the reason of this? Wandered, Lord Buddha wandered. Likewise, Vasco da Gama. Went out in search of discovering a new nation, new geographical entity. Lord Buddha was not lost, was able to get the wisdom which resulted into formation of a new religion, Buddhism. Vasco da Gama was not lost, he was able to find a new nation. These kind of wandering can take place. Another sort of wandering, which is prescribed by, in one of the books which I liked like anything, the monk who sold his Ferrari. In this book you will realize that A person after facing being so rich, having acquired everything in life, all the pleasures of life, one day the emergency dawns upon him, and he finds that despite the fact that he has all the pleasures of life, money is there, relationship is also sound, he is the boss of one of the best MNCs, he feels empty. He feels empty from inside, and then he gives away all his wealth and goes out wandering. This is also one of the sort of wandering, spiritual wandering, geographical wandering, spiritual wandering. Then these are all positive wandering. These are all positive. These are all positive sort of wandering. There can be negative wandering also. What is negative wandering? People wandering, roaming around here and there, that I told you, in places in the hubs of examination, Mukherjee Nagar, Old Rajendra Nagar, in Delhi and various other places also. Every city has its own. Like when I was in Varanasi, there was a place. Those of you who have been to Varanasi, there was a place at Godulia. Nearby Godulia, many students used to stay, or Lanka Gate, BHU inside. When you enter BHU, Lanka Gate, so many people wandering. They are wandering. What are they doing? These people are in search of what? Or most of us are in search of what? Money, pleasure, and that too short term pleasures, short term, right now. The younger generation, the Gen Z, largely, although I find that in some departments they are very clear that yes, this is what I am looking for, not being hypocrite. Hypocrisy is not there. They are looking for short term things, not long term at all. They have realized that everything is short term. Likewise, most people in life are wondering about what? Money, lust, short term pleasures, no approach of delayed gratification at all. That kind of wandering also happens. In that wandering, what happens? These are lost. But the other sort of wandering, they were not lost. Then we'll say we saw that positive wandering, negative wandering, then we'll see lost or not. Many people are lost, others are not. Despite the fact that some people wander, they are not lost, but others are lost. So in this way, what we are doing? Describing the topic completely, exploring it, exploring the topic. In this philosophical kind of essay, it is important because see, many things are said in a particular context. In context of a war, in context of World War II, somebody would have said that this phrase you must have heard, necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity gives birth to invention. If you take this topic, in our first technique description, we'll say yes, necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity leads to invention. necessity of people wanting to travel faster, led to invention of motor cars. Necessity leading to invention, or there can be other way as well, invention leading to necessity. Just because the motor cars were invented, there was a necessity for further speed, to increase the speed. When people realize that they can travel at 40 km per hour, that gave birth, or that germinated a thought in their mind that they can probably travel at 100 km per hour as well. So there should be invention of new cars. Then came your BMW, Audi, Tesla and all, that yes, speed is the requirement now. In the necessities, then we can say several kinds of necessity. There is necessity driven by physical need, necessity driven by spiritual need. Because of physical needs, inventions like this, cars, air jets, aircraft, they can take place. And because of spiritual need, we can have a theory or a religion, Buddhism, Jainism, spiritual need. Likewise, the topic is bloated. This is called description approach. In the D is description. Whenever you get a philosophical topic, work on description of the topic, blowing it completely. E is your exposition. What is exposition? We will see. The exposition is exposition is exposing something. What does that mean? Communicate your in-depth knowledge clearly. Communicate your in-depth knowledge clearly. This is exposition. These techniques I have derived for your benefits. They don't suit general understanding and all. They are just for philosophical essays. Communicate your in-depth knowledge. First, your in-depth knowledge. I have told you that in the essay you need not be an expert, but it is also true that you should not be shallow in your approach. Whenever you say something, whenever you give an argument, you must follow it up with the examples. If you give example and case study from real life, if you give a unique example and case study, it's better. So your knowledge should be in depth, but depth should not be too grinding, which is required in the optionals. And nowadays, let me tell you one thing very clearly, that I have been telling again and again, that kind of depth which was required earlier for 60 marker, 90 marker, 30 marker, which were being asked earlier, even for optionals, that is not required now. Because of that, the approach followed by others is not good. As simple as that. They are not changing their method because they can't do it. There is a need of new technique to ensure the new command over the new way in which UPSC is inventing and reinventing itself. UPSC has changed a lot. Gone are the days when people used to prepare a lot. Those who used to work too hard used to get selected. Now you see the smart people getting into that. How? Because of this approach. So, in that E, exposition, communicate your in-depth knowledge clearly. Now what does it mean? We will take an example. The topic being asked in 2023 itself, the topic is mathematics is the music of reason. Mathematics is the music of reason. Now, when you are communicating a viewpoint, what does it mean first and foremost? Music of reason. That is what happens in music. And others. Sa, re, ga, ma, then pa, dha, ni, sa. What we call this? Sur. From this, all sorts of, all types of, all vibrations of music has been created. All kind of creative endeavors in the music has taken place by permutation and combination of PNC. Some of them, some of these techniques you might be knowing for your seaside study. The PNC, see, one thing is very important. Mathematics is the essence of life, whether you believe it or not. Permutation and combination of these sur, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa. These surs, these basic ingredients, or when we say in English, we have so many words, but they are made of alphabets. Likewise, the mathematics is the music of reason. That is, mathematical foundations, the mathematical foundations are based off reasons, reasoning. The core ingredient of mathematics is reasoning. Everywhere there is reasoning. When you are saying these things, when you are citing these evidences and examples, what you are doing is you are doing the exposition thing. What is exposition? You are communicating your in-depth knowledge on this much of depth is required, this much of depth is enough for essay. Breaking down things, we find the common denominator of mathematics is reason. This is exposition. Description done, exposition done with examples. What does exposition mean? When you are saying this, that as combination of these results into formation and creation of various types of music. Likewise, in mathematics, we find that the common denominator is reason, and every mathematical principle is based out of one or the other reason. So basic foundation of mathematics, whether it is combination, probability, permutation combination, coordinate geometry, whatsoever, it is all made of reasoning. So those people who have a bit of an idea of mathematics and those who have studied mathematics in their background, it is better that they attempt this topic, because they will be able to give examples here. But this is how the exposition is done, and this is required for the philosophical topics. Description, exposition. Out of Dean, description and exposition done. This is description, this is exposition. Then comes A. What does A? Argument. Arguments. Describe the topic, do the exposition, communicate your in-depth knowledge clearly. What is arguments? Argument here means, argument is defined here as evidence based, compelling arguments. Evidence based first and foremost. As I told you, whenever you are giving an argument, whenever you are giving an fact or your understanding of the topic, it has to be backed by the examples. What we are talking here is evidence based compelling arguments. What does it mean? We'll see through an example. Evidence based compelling examples or compelling arguments. Through an example, let's see our topic of visionary decision making. Or leave this topic we have already covered. Better idea is that we can take new topic, new example. Evidence based compelling arguments. In our topic of asked this year itself, that wisdom is something which is left with you which remains with you when you forget everything you have been taught by the schools or colleges. Suppose this is the topic. Topic can be one single sentence, they can be two sentences or whatever, it doesn't matter. The basic idea is that wisdom is something which is out of the zone of your basic schooling, colleges, or what you learn from childhood till your adulthood or even later. Wisdom is something beyond this zone, beyond your zone of education. This is education and experience. This is your wisdom. Wisdom is away from the zone of education. This is the education you receive, and this is the wisdom which you are endowed with. This is the topic. So when you take the argument in favor of this statement, then you will say that there are people. How you will argue with that? When you are taking favor of this statement, you will say that there are people who, like, there are so many examples. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, these people did not have high degree of education, but if you look at their wisdom, their visionary approaches, they are much beyond and much better than many of the people, many of the scientists even. They have been able to impact the society more positively in a more influential manner as compared to others. There are 14-year-olds not much of education. They are able to create something great for the society. And there are people even at the age of 80 who don't know what decision to take. They have very good education, but they have not been able to live well in the society, give something back to the society. And there are people at this age who have thought, no, I have to give it back to the society. Even at this age, such young age. So many aspirants who prepare for UPSC, take the example of UPSC itself. I see that there are guys as young as 2021 who have, in their writing also I can see the reflection of wisdom, maturity in their conduct. They are so mature. But there are people who have been preparing for UPSC exams since so long, but their behavior, their examples, their conduct is so immature. They have not been endowed with the wisdom. Whatever they might have learned in the school, there are people, you see, many people you encounter, many people you meet in real life, they have studied in Harvard. Great economist, great political scientist, but look at their conduct in life. You will be completely disheartened. I can give you example about many of the eminent teachers in this arena itself. Giving an example from my personal side, their conduct in the classroom is so good, their language is so supreme, but if you look at their conduct in the personal life, you will realize that so poorly they are endowed with the wisdom. No maturity shown, behaving like a completely immature child. You must also have encountered people around you. Here you are giving example in favor. What about against that? Wisdom, you see, people who are literate, you see their behavior. A gathering of literate people will always behave in a much more mature and visionary manner as compared to a gathering of illiterate bunch of jokers. Right or not? So this argument you are giving against the statement. You can cite the example of hooliganism. There are hooligans in colleges, there are hooligans on the road, There are hooligans at different places. Hooligans in the parliament also. This is your parliament. You see the literate people behaving, this section literate, behaving in a very mature way, and these hooligans, most of them having a criminal background, they behave like hooligans. No maturity, no wisdom. These we are citing evidence against. So whether it is in favor of or against the statement, it has to be backed by the evidence, compelling evidence. This is the meaning of arguments here, right? We can take another example, or I have told you earlier also. This example, you see this topic, that visionary decision making takes place at the intersection of intuition and logic, both, right? So there we gave the example in favor. What was the example in favor? Earlier I have given you Lal Bahadur Shastri took an example, took a decision, visionary decision making of not backing out of the fight but being aggressive in his approach towards Pakistan in 1965. Visionary decision making that became hallmark for further decisions, or you can say the recent decision of Balakot airstrike. Balakot airstrike, they shifted the benchmark. Earlier the protocol was, if there is something like this war-like situation happens, you cannot do the airstrike inside the enemy boundary. Your neighbors and other nations who support you or oppose you, they will bring this to the UN. But Modi government took the decision of changing this paradigm and went ahead the enemy nation and conducted the airstrike, Balakot airstrike. After that, the enemy nation will not ever think of going against India, because they know the repercussions, the consequences. Visionary decision making, first was a calculated approach of what they did before Balakot. All the nations, all the European nations, the European and American nations, they were approached by our diplomats, and what they did, diplomats suggested to them, this is the situation, we are compelled to take this decision because we want a deterrence. We want a deterrence for the enemy. We want enemy to understand that now onwards we will not take things for granted. They should not take our position for granted. They were persuaded. This approach is what? Logic. But then there was some sort of courage also, that we will not be harmed, that our army people, air force people, they will not be harmed, and this decision will not backfire. This decision will not backfire. This was backed on what? Intuition. So both logic and intuition was there. Whenever you are favoring the statement, you have to give the evidence like this. When you are going against this, because in the essay you will have to give both parts. When you are going against this, then again Vikram Batra approach. Vikram Batra, or any heroic action which is taken on basis of courage, pure courage. People fear hiking to even 10 floors. If you have to climb 10 floors, even that is tiring, and you fear it if there are no stairs. But don't we have people who have hiked Mount Everest? How? based on intuition only. Visionary decision making, that yes, I can conquer this, I can conquer this. There are several people with very less resources. They prepare at their home without any support. They have the courage and conviction, intuition. In your real life also, you see, you take a decision. There are people who are very well paid in their jobs. People coming from these IIT, IIM backgrounds and many other backgrounds also, not only these backgrounds. They have the opportunity to earn huge amount of money, but many of them, they leave it and they start something unique, startups. Most of the first generation startups, most of the first generation entrepreneurs, first gen entrepreneurs are, they are backed by the conviction, the abilities, their self esteem, their confidence that yeah, there is a market and there are competition, there is huge competition, but I can conquer all of them and find something unique. I can build my own market based on, yes, there is logic, but largely it is intuition. So if you have evidence like this, then we are following the arguments approach. And in this context only, I would like to tell you that, see, not only the material which we will provide, but you should also have a general habit of reading things. This book by Amartya Sen, I would like to advise you to read Argumentative Indian. See, don't go by the author's name or the ideologies followed by particular person who has written the book, that may or may not be reflected there, but your understanding about Indian socio-economic scenario will become better if you read this Argumentative Indian by Amartya Sen. Renowned economist from India only. Read this, you will have a better perspective. There are few books you should read, you get a better insight. Like I read a book much earlier, Meera and the Mahatma. Sudhir Kakkar's understanding of Gandhiji. Gandhiji's psychoanalysis kind of thing is there. Meera and the Mahatma. It's about, basically about the Madeline Slade, who was called Meera, who came from Europe to serve Gandhiji. But various prospects, various aspects of Gandhiji's personality, along with the fact that Sudhir Kakkar has brought the basic human nature which we generally deny, that's also brought there. A general habit of reading books and getting the perspective will make your vocabulary rich, your exposition, your delivery of dialogue will be better, you will be more argumentative. Few books out of interest you can read. This was also one of them. Then we have done our D, E, A. D is your description, E is your exposition, A is your arguments, and then comes N. What is N? N is your narrative. How do you build your narrative? How do you build your narrative? Now, I'll give you an insight. Most of you might have seen, I assume you might have seen this movie, Andhadhund. Andhadhund. Scene. Rabbit. Somebody fires on the rabbit because the rabbit is probably destroying the carrots in that farm. The farmer fires on the rabbit. Rabbit jumps towards the road. There is a car going by. Rabbit jumps on the screen, and because of that an accident takes place. This is the opening, the start of the scene. Then we know the story behind it. We know the story behind it as the movie further develops. So many characters brought, and what happened, why the rabbit jumped on which car, what happened because of that. And the way the Andhadhun has been left, the end, the conclusion also left clue for Andhadhun part 2. Narrative. For Andhadhun 1, they built a narrative. In the start itself, they aroused your interest in it. Built a story gradually, slowly, steamingly, giving lots of masala in it. Left a clue for second part also. Brilliant. Bahubali. Bahubali 1 gave you a story which happened after Bahubali 2. Bahubali 2, the events mentioned in the Bahubali 2 happened earlier, and then Bahubali 1 would have happened. But they developed a scene to ensure that you are interested. What happened earlier, what will happen later. This is called narrative, compelling narrative. Generate interest. And how this can be done? I have already told you methods. 2 methods. That is why I tell you that it is very easy to score well in essay. Likewise, it's very easy to score well in ethics paper. But the way it has been made in the market, the way they build the narrative of ethics and essay, for essay they give you lots of material and that works against it. You cannot write a better essay if you are jumbling, if your mind is completely juxtaposed complexly in a complex manner. Your mind is developing a cobweb, makdi ka jala, and then you are trying to build an essay, a narrative. That is not going to happen. That's why I tell you, I always suggest students that when you are going for essay paper, keep your mind blank. Although there is GS1 paper next day, but please keep your mind blank. GS1, GS2 will take care of itself because your revisions should be done earlier. But before essay paper, just be blank. One day before, don't read anything. Be relaxed, nothing will happen. Essay requires your creativity. And if you are not creative, that marks which examiner would have given you is not given to you. In fact, many people, because of this reason, because of lots of factual analysis which they do, not even analysis, the facts and all which they put in the essay paper, their essay becomes boring, lifeless, and that's why they end up getting very less marks. But you see, without much effort, you can just write the brilliant essay out there, just to keep your mind relaxed. Anecdotes, case study. 2 methods only. Anecdotes, story. And how to build the story? The source of story lies in your mind itself. So many movies you watch, so many books you read, so many people you interact with, your own life experience, that gives you fodder for building the stories, building the anecdotes. Like I was watching a movie, this Sully. I don't know whether you have watched it or not. Where a pilot, the captain of the aircraft, is forced to land on water body because of some failure of engine, and he is penalized for doing this. Then he explains in front of the inquiry committee how, because of his intuition, his experience and his intuition, despite the failure of the engine, this was the best decision which he took, and because of which the lives of so many passengers was saved. Because of landing on water, it's still safer as compared to landing on a building, on a open patch that may result into destructive, highly destructive consequences. That captures the emotion. This movie, the story behind the movie is very, very small, very less. That's why you see, I suggest you, whenever you have time and if you are watching movie, either you watch movies like Andhadhun and this movie of Ajay Devgan, the part 2 also came, Drishyam, movies like this, or watch Hollywood movies which have very small plot, the story is very less, but woven in such a manner, the weaving of the story is done in such a manner that you realize that okay, so compelling, because they are based on real life case studies. They capture the emotion of human beings so well. Likewise, it is to be done in the essay also, and it's very easy. The narrative built there. Try to build a narrative. The case study. How case studies are put? I gave you several examples. In ethics also you read so many examples. I gave you an example of tribal people living in the state of Jharkhand, where for their development houses were built, but they did not live there, because they believe that if the front door is of their height, or the length of the door, height of the door is more than their height, it means that they believe that God is not residing in this house. They prefer doors which are half their height, so that they have to bow down and enter the home. That's why they did not live in these houses, although they were very well built with great facilities. They did not live there. I gave you an example of Chhattisgarh tribes. For whose development the DC of the district provided them with buffaloes. Milching these buffaloes, selling the milk and other products will make them rich. This is what the assumption of the district administration was. But these tribes, they used to eat buffaloes. Case study. Many of these case studies you find every now and then. You say this case study, you see, Divya Mittal ensured that she fought with the irrigation department of UP to ensure that after 75 years, she is an IAS, after 75 years the water reached into one of the districts, but despite that she was transferred. If people who work in the public interest are transferred like this, are honest and people with integrity going to join the administration? The answer is no. You see, I'll give you an example, a separate example. This topic is not philosophical. Suppose your topic is democracy is the best form of the government. Democracy is the best form of government. This is your topic. Now you want to cite a case study or a narrative or an anecdote. You can say, and your narrative, your case study, your anecdote need not be correct. You can build it. You can build it. It may be a fable, a story which is not true. That's why I did not pay much attention to whether it is J.R.D. Tata or Ratan Tata or any Tata, because the examiner is not bothered about it. Examiner is bothered about the sense which you make out of it. Nobody is penalized even for optionals, I tell you. Unless you are saying something which is completely antagonistic to the basic principles of the optional or the discipline which you are following, nobody deducts your marks for these things. These things are overlooked. You can build a fable that one of the greatest historians writes that while he was living in Pakistan, he always feared for his life. There were agony and disgust in the minds of people as far as governance is concerned. But when he shifted to India, he realized that here he had the freedom of expression and speech. You could take the example of Taslima Nasreen. Who chose to live in India rather than Bangladesh, because here she has freedom to express her mind. And if you are, as Rabindranath Tagore once said, that if you don't have the freedom to express your mind, you are not free in the real sense. And this freedom of speech and expression you get in a democracy. Here you are giving anecdotes and case study both. This is called narrative, and it summarizes our approach of DEAN. DEAN approach. You have to remember phase approach in general, familiarity of topic, anecdotes, creative writing examples, and then especially for your philosophical topics, this description, exposition, arguments and narrative approach. To sum these up, in general, what we are required to do? Choose a topic which is familiar topic. Explore the topic completely. Find case studies and examples. Write anecdotal introduction. Whatever argument you build, first of all build as many arguments as you can. We will see the techniques, the time management and all in the next class. Accordingly, how many arguments you can put up and how to generate these arguments. Then for each and every argument there has to be examples. And finally we will sum it up in the conclusion. If you are following these principles, making the narrative interesting, as I told you, like Andhadhun, Sali, Drishyam, then you are in for brilliant marking here, and that too with lesser hard work. Just imagination, practicing, following the right direction. This way we can build our case in order to get marks. Now in the next class what we will do, which is tomorrow 6:30 p.m. onwards, will be a class of 1.5 an hour. First we will take a topic, see how time management should be done with evidence and examples, see the points which we can generate. Then onwards we will start writing the essays, because see, practice makes a man or a woman perfect. Unless you are doing practice, nothing is going to happen. Many people ask me, sir, when should we start writing the answers? After finishing the complete syllabus? I say no, start as soon as possible, because once you start writing, your mind block will be over. You need not do a PhD in any aspect, then start writing, because then it will become very late. You start writing it. Many of you sent me your essay and ethics answers. I have evaluated and sent, and I can see, if not all, most of you are in the right direction. You can be further developed by just few interventions. You can reach to the marking of 140 and 160, which we have decided for ourselves in ethics and essay. So those of you who have not written it, please write it. There is no shame if you get less marks. See, make as many mistakes as you can in your practice. As much you sweat here, the less you will bleed in the final examination. You will be way ahead of many people who are thinking of writing answers. I will give you an example. In last optional class, there was one girl who was writing exemplary answer, but she was not completing the paper. She was writing only 2-3 questions. I told her that, why are you doing this? Why writing 2-3 questions? Write all the answers. She was like, sir, I feel like 2-3 questions I address well, that is enough. Passed prelims, went to the mains examination. But this habit continued there. Quality answers, attempted only 70% of the paper, optional paper, did not qualify, despite the fact that she writes exceptional answers. You have to understand, this is a competitive examination. Here you need not write each and every answer of yours should not be supreme, and you should do as much practice as you can. So we will see how to write the essays by managing our time. In the next class we will take a new topic. As see, I will provide you new topics. You have to write the answers. I will provide you fodder for generating world class essays in form of quotes, in form of toppers essays, where you can get the insight, okay, this way essay is to be written. You can learn few things from that. Then you will write 10 essays, 5 sectional and 5 full essays. By that time you will be completely prepared. As far as prelims is concerned, I have already told you before in the start of our class that we are going to start a program which will be convincing, and believe me, here I personally take care of your success and failure. So this program will help you like anything to steer through that completely uncertain papers which are given by UPSC. What happens? Many people are prepared. 40, I saw that 25 techniques were given by one of the coaching institutes to do well in the prelims examination. People followed all 25 techniques, none of them worked. Likewise, 50 formula were given for CSAT, none of them worked in last year's CSAT, because they are not training you for the logic which is required for GS paper, logic which is required for CSAT paper, wasting your time. The amount of money asked is hefty. So we'll take care of all this, bringing that program. Please wait for some time. Follow these classes with utmost confidence. Have faith in yourself, have faith in your teacher. You will do really well. With this, we'll end today's class. Good night. Do well. We'll meet in tomorrow's class 6:30 p.m. and see a new topic, how to explore it, how to divide our time, and in the class itself we'll write the essay. You see, later on you will write your essays and send it to me. I'll evaluate and give you very few suggestions. Unlike the practice in other institute, they write 2 pages, 3 pages, but does not make any sense. I have seen all total nonsense, does not make any sense. I have seen many of these scripts. Then I am telling you, not criticizing because I don't need to, but this is the reality, the harsh reality. Good night. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you very much.